Welcome to session number 4 of our Preparing for Success, our learning strategies for our apprentices, especially electricians. So in this one, we're going to take a look at effective reading strategies. And as I've alluded to in previous videos, we have a real challenge ahead of us with this because the easiest way for dissemination of this information is in the written form. We get a lot of textbook reading as a tradesperson, that's not necessarily our most favorable method, but we have to somehow make this work. So here's some strategies that I want to just try and introduce to you so that we can get through this with the least amount of effort and the most amount of effect. So when we're looking at this, the effective reading strategies, again, it's daunting when you first go into your programs and you're going to see the heavy amount of reading material that you're going to have. And then there's going to be a lot of online reading. There's going to be a whole lot to do. It gets really daunting. And for those of you guys that are strong readers, no problem. But reading textbook information is not like doing your nightly reading for pleasure. You have to remember stuff. You don't have to just remember the gist of things, you have to remember things. So, how do we get through this? We're going to take a look at the effective read and learn from your modules and textbooks. We're going to take a look at the learning techniques of what I like to call the SQ4R method. And then we want to introduce the next slide, which is going to be about taking notes because they do go hand in hand with each other. All of these sessions are definitely very relatable, but we don't want to have to keep opening up the textbooks and rereading. We want to make sure that we take notes that just take away the important information so that I don't have to go and read that textbook again and again and again. Don't have to carry that around all the time. Carry around your notebook. So getting started, reading in one place, be comfortable. Be comfortable, but not too comfortable. This is not where you want to be taking and reading in bed or reading like belly down or anything like that. It can't be like that because it isn't the pleasure reading stuff that we want for your relaxation. This is something that we want to try and stay awake. So sitting in an upright position, but still comfortable. Minimize your distractions. Don't be in a room full of distractions or near the TV or even have your phone with you because those are tempting. They're just too tempting. And we want to just keep Googling things. But Googling things, as we talked about before, add an element to distraction. And also they take away from the critical thinking about thinking through the process. The moment that we start doing that, thinking through the process is the moment that you stop having to work so hard. Because now all of a sudden it starts to become more clear. So don't always look to have somebody provide you answers. Try and find those solutions. And that's what we're going to be looking at within this reading. Take regular breaks. You have to. As I talked about in an earlier slide, Albert Einstein's attention span was about 15 minutes. The average person's is about 12. We need to make sure that we maximize those 12 minutes. As soon as you start reading more than that, you're not going to retain it. I'm sure that you probably all have had that experience where you read to the bottom of a chapter, a page, or whatever, and you're like, what even just happened in that? I don't know. My finger went all the way to the bottom here, but I don't remember anything that happened. That again is normal for humans that they're in their brain, they're tired, whatever. So you have to make sure that we make an allowance for you being a human being. Set yourself some reading goals. Set them as attainable and achievable reading goals. Pay attention to your distractions. Make sure that we take the distractions away once you are noticing them. Okay? So you got to be very conscious of that. We all are guilty, and men, we are even more guilty of being distracted by electronics more than anything. Men are higher susceptibility to this for whatever reason. We love it. It just absorbs us, and we don't mean it, but it gets us. I have to be very conscious. I got to put my phone down or not even bring it into the room with me because I will get distracted, and I won't mean to, but I will. So when we start setting reading goals, when I was doing my master's of education, um, I was an electrician. I did not have a formal degree beforehand. I was not used to the heavy amount of reading. So I was really struggling. Every day we had to read a lot, hundreds and hundreds of pages every day. And I was overwhelmed. And so one of my fellow students in that class said, well, here, just start out with like putting a gummy bear at the end of every paragraph. So read the paragraph, close your eyes, recite what was talked about in that paragraph to make sure you grasped it, and then you could reward yourself with that gummy bear. Use whatever you want. Doesn't need to be a gummy bear. Be careful what kind of gummy, but just something that's a bit of a reward. But over time, you're going to get faster and faster and more capable of holding on to that information. But use longer intervals. So instead of every paragraph, do every chapter or something like that. Just move the goalposts out a little bit each time, or else you're going to be too big to get up. We're going to study in chunks. When we study in chunks, we're going to take a look at 15-minute intervals. Again, trying to make sure that we are looking at the and appreciating our physical limitations. This is not you. This is just how we are made. So when we take a look at the overall, if we were to read consecutively for 1 hour, we're going to be really attentive. Then we're going to lag down to around 30% attentive, and then we're going to ramp back up after that hour. But we have lost a lot of productivity and a lot of remembering in here. Yes, I use the word remembering. When we are doing it in chunks, 15-minute chunk, set your clock, 15-minute chunk. And we're keeping it all in about that 90%, 80 to 90% retention range. 15 minutes, 5-minute breaks. Don't get on your distractions, okay? Stay away from them for that full hour block. Get up, walk around the room, grab a glass of water, something that doesn't break the cycle, break the concentration. Just go have a quick washroom break, splash some water in your face, whatever. 5 minutes, be honest to yourself with that. Come back, do another interval, 15 minutes, take another 5-minute break, same thing, just real casual. Get up though, walk around. You need to get that blood flow going again. And finally, your third chunk of 15 minutes. And now at the end of this, go and check your phone messages. Go and do whatever you needed to do, because now your cycle for that hour, but you're probably going to need to repeat this maybe 2 to 3 times in an evening, especially during the heavy time of it. And everyone will come across that at some point. So be prepared for that. It won't be every day. If you can keep that stuff, you get into a good rhythm, you can reduce that time down considerably. But this really helps with the retention a lot. When you use that, the SQ4R technique, we're going to do what we call a overall survey. Coming from a military background, everything that you did had to be sort of recceed, reconnaissance beforehand. So that's the survey. Take a look at what we're going to be looking at. Have a quick little thumb through the book. Have a thumb through the chapter. See how many pages there are. Take a look at anything that's standing out to you. And we'll go through this a little bit more in a bit. Okay, we want to question what we're reading. Don't just read for the sake of reading. We want to have a question formulated in our brain that we want to have answered. When we read to answer that question, we will understand what's happening a lot more than just reading information. It sucks just reading. It is, or I shouldn't say it sucks to read, but it sucks to read technical information without purpose. Having a formulated question in mind to be answered as you're reading really truly helps, and I'll help you with that. We're going to read, underline a little bit, but don't get crazy. Okay, we don't want to do that too much, because you'll find everything is underlined. Record, we're going to make little notes, but we're going to do it very carefully on the margins of our books. I'll show you that technique too. Recite out loud what you've written, or the overview of what you've just read. It really helps to put it into perspective and to help with that active component that we talked about. Reading is a very low retention activity unless we do all of this. It's 10% retention, 10%. And then we want to make sure that we do provide a review of the overall chapter. Okay, so when we take a look at that survey, just to sort of put it a little bit more careful, most modules and most textbooks are going to have all of this. We're going to have the table of contents to take a look at what's all involved in it. You don't need to get too detailed in there. Just take a look. Take a look at what the headings are and just see that they're going to look like they're sequential. Oh, I'm going to learn this, then I'm going to learn this, then I'm going to learn this. Really, it's cool. I don't need to know all of it right now. I'm just going to learn this little bit, which is going to help me understand the next little bit, which is going to help me understand the next little bit. It really makes it easier. You want to read the introduction pages. Oh my, that is something that most apprentices skip over, and it's probably one of the most important things for reading with intent is the purpose and the whole idea of how does it relate. That's the introduction page. Read that. Yeah, there's not a lot of technical information for memorization, but it makes it practical and real for us. That's going to be at the beginning. We can also take a look at glossary of terms, especially in the Canadian Electrical Code book. That's imperative. We got to make sure that we're calling apples apples, okay? Because as soon as we start calling it something else, there's going to be confusion. So the Canadian Electrical Code book and CSA have very definitive terms, and so will your textbooks. Don't ignore the self-tests. They're important because they test the high points, the need to knows. Those are essential. Always make sure you do those. When you look at the back, the objective summaries, at the beginning, the objective summaries, what should I know? At the end of this lesson, you will know this. You will learn this. You must define this. Something like that will be stated in there. In our BC curriculum, we see them very clearly stated. Here's what you need to know in this. That's where our formulation of our question comes from. I'm going to read this based off of the overall summary that I needed. Diagrams. Look at the diagrams, pictures. Pictures are worth a million words, right? Review questions. Make sure that we look at those. Your questions. The questions will help us focus your attention and sharpen your interest in what you're reading. Turn the chapter objectives. That's what we were talking about in the last slide. Turn the chapter objectives into questions. Form a question that leads you towards wanting to learn that. That's now the target to search and destroy and to find out everything about. If you don't do that, we're just reading and it's boring. Read with the purpose of answering that question. Make sure that we stop frequently to check our understanding. That's where you covered the page with your hand or a piece of paper or something like that. Close your eyes and just talk. What did I just read? When you get into a habit of that, it starts to get the brain working on the actual acceptance of the information, and it starts to help you adjust to the reading. You got 4 years of it. Embrace it. It's not going to change. Okay, it hasn't changed in decades, century. So in fact, we're getting more technical information. We just need to know it. Our trade is not getting less; it's getting more. So make sure that we're embracing this. We're getting into it as soon as possible. I promise you, you will do it. It will be doable. It just is going to take a little bit of time. The more you fight it, the longer it's going to take before you get there. Mark up your modules. Yeah. Wow. Don't look at trying to sell them again afterwards. It's an investment. You bought those things for $150. You don't want to have to go back to school again to take it again. So mark them up, use them. It's an investment. It's an investment in your future. There is only one real resource that you don't get again. We can always make more money. but we can never get back that time. So if you have to go to school again for another 10 weeks, you're taking away money and you're taking away time. So try and do it in the first time you can. Again, you're not really saving anything by I don't know. I mean, maybe you're going to be able to sell them, but at the end of the day, try just you want to learn and you want to pass. At least that's my thoughts on it. When we are looking at recite and record, recite the key ideas aloud. Okay, check for the accuracy of your understanding. So recite what you said and then remember that and then go back and read it real quickly to make sure that it is still accurate. Yes, that's what it said. Because sometimes we misunderstand or we misread. Our brain puts things in that we want to be there that aren't there. You see this on the internet all the time. People getting into arguments because they're reading because of they read with something already in place in their head. And we want to try and avoid that. Record your key ideas as notes in your notebook. So put it into the columns of your modules for now. And then what we want to do is we want to transfer that over into your notebook after. Okay. But right now you don't want to have two things in front of you at the same time. Read in and put the stuff in the columns and then go back into the columns and transfer that into your notebooks. This way it helps keep your notebooks organized as well. Instead of it just being rambly, and I don't know if you've ever done this, but you write a bunch of stuff down and then you realize, oh, that's not even important. It doesn't matter. It's nothing. So it helps if you take those notes in your margin first and then transfer that to your notebook. I know it seems like more work, but I promise you it will be less work overall because you're going to be doing it right from the beginning instead of having a messy, jumbled notebook that you can't use for study later. And the review. Skim and reread your notes. If you've made good notes throughout, you don't even need to go back through that module, or you can flip back for some of the images for sure. It's never bad, but you don't have to do that. Do the end of chapter questions every single time, and prior to your exams, make sure you're doing them again. So when you answer those, don't do that in the book. When you do those, answer them in a scrap piece of paper so you can take it out and keep redoing those. Review highlighted sections, but I want you to be very careful when you're using highlighter. Read it, underline lightly with a pencil first. Don't put highlighter on there right away because this is normal for people. You're going to highlight everything you think are important, and when you read it again, you're going to be like, why did I put highlight on there? Now like 90% of my book is highlighter. Now nothing is important. Highlight only key things that help answer the question from that summary that you already talked about. So only things that are important to answering the objective question. Recite and make your flashcards. If you do this consistently, this is your notes, this is your study. You're not going back into your modules very often. You're just going to do that for quick checks prior to exams. Your notes will have the information, and they'll be a lot less than your overall binder, and they're going to be in your words. Highlight after you read and recite. Don't do it before. We all get caught up in that. Avoid overmarking. For sure. Highlight is not the same as learning. The same thing can be said about taking pictures of slides. Taking pictures of other people's notes doesn't mean you're learning it. It means you've got a picture of it. Your smartphone is getting smarter. You're not. So making sure that you're making the notes. If you take pictures of slides, it's fine, but transfer that information with you and your own pen. Okay, or type it out. But it is connective to your brain better if you handwrite it or print it or whatever. It doesn't need to be elongated. It can be very short and sweet in your own words. And practice. Practice. Read and recite. Make your flashcards, and then they're there with you for your preparation for your exams forevermore. That's it for this lesson.